Everybody, welcome to the sixth and final knowledge lecture of the Neophyte grade. I am the Desert Viking, and today this knowledge lecture is fairly short, lots of information, but fairly short. And we will be discussing the Hebrew language itself, actually the Hebrew alphabet, which is the final piece of the puzzle for you to gain proficiency to move on to the first grade of Zelator within the Golden Dawn system. I will be reading the knowledge lecture itself, and then I will be showing the Hebrew letters, and we will kind of talk about, before we get into that, why this is important. As an esotericist, you will be exposed to books written in a variety of languages. If you limit yourself to English, you are handicapping yourself severely. For people who rely on the English translations of anything to include the holy texts, you are handicapping yourself. You are not getting the true translation. You're getting some other person's translation of what he thought that was supposed to mean. And in regards like the holy text, you're getting a very filtered view of what was allowed to be released on top of translations. And while it's close, if you take a Bible and, for example, take the NIV Bible, take the King James Version, and get the Septuagint, and take all three of those. The Septuagint was the original Greek version of the Bible. It used to be the source before King James. And you go through Genesis, you're going to find so many differences in those three translations alone. And those three translations are in English. So it's very much in your interest, if you wish to pursue this type of knowledge, that you have the ability at least to be able to look at Hebrew, look at Greek, look at Latin, and have a kind of an understanding. This isn't about becoming super fluent in it, but to be able to draw the Hebrew letters. That's your goal here today. And then, because Greek, a lot of the philosophies were written in Greek, and then Latin, a lot of the alchemical texts from the Middle Ages are written in Latin. So these things are important. So without ado, let's look at the Hebrew alphabet and hear what the Golden Dawn had to say about it. Now, when it comes to the proficiency, I'm going to move my face around here. When it comes to the proficiency, you need to know how to draw the letters. You need to know how to pronounce the letters. You need to know their esoteric meanings. You need to know the gematria behind them, the number that they represent. You need to also have a good understanding of how they map up to the current tarot, what sound they make. The red here on the screen, those are the three mother letters. Anything with two characters listed is one of the seven double letters. And the rest are the elemental letters. Final form, those are what the letters look like if they come at the end of a word. They'll talk a little bit about that. The Hebrew alphabet was originally designed as a pictorial or hieroglyphic alphabet similar to that of the Egyptians. Each letter is a visual representation of an object. In addition to this, however, Hebrew is the primary alphabet of Western magic. Not only does each letter have a literal meaning, but also an esoteric meaning, a numeric value, a color, a sound, and various other hidden correspondences associated with it. The letters of the Hebrew alphabet are sacred symbols, which attract real forces that the magician can orchestrate by the techniques of visualization and vibration. These letters can also have a psychological influence on the aspirant who meditates upon them, affecting changes in consciousness. The importance of memorizing the Hebrew alphabet cannot be stressed enough, for it is one tool that the magician will use constantly throughout his or her ceremonial workings. The 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet correspond to the 22 paths on the Tree of Life. Unlike English, Hebrew is written from right to left. In addition to this, all of the Hebrew letters are consonants. There are no vowels. At times, the letters Yod and Vav may function as vowels, and the silent letters Aleph and Ayin can be used to indicate the position of a vowel. But again, none of these letters are vowels. It was not until well into the Christian era that a system for indicating vowels with a dagesh, or pointing, was developed in order to standardize pronunciation. We will not enter into a discussion concerning the pointing system here, but such information is readily available in modern Hebrew texts. Please note that 5 of the letters, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Peh, and Zadi, have 2 forms associated with them. The second version of these letters are called finals, and if you look on this sheet here, you'll see those 5 letters right here. These are their final versions. The second versions of these letters are their finals, and they are used whenever the letter occurs at the end of a word. These final letters also have a different numeric value. So if you notice, those values have 2 values here. We have what it is when it's in its normal form and what it is when it's in its final form. And you should know both of those. Concerning pronunciation, during MacGregor Mather's time, there were 2 principal dialects in the Hebrew language. They were, oh boy, I can't pronounce these, Ashkenazic, a dialect employed in Germany, Poland, and Russia, and Sephardic, which was used in Spain and the Mediterranean. The Golden Dawn teachings stress the Sephardic pronunciation. Hebrew words are almost never accented on the first syllable, but usually on the final syllable, with secondary accents falling on every other syllable before the final one. And as we have stated, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet are both hieroglyphs and holy symbols, which represent real forces. In addition to the literal meanings and numerical values of each letter, a brief investigation of the archetypes and abstract symbolism behind the Hebrew alphabet will yield many arcane insights. This is where understanding the letters, understanding their esoteric meanings start to come into play. Israel Regardie was adamant about the idea that Neophyte should be able to draw the Hebrew letters to the best of their ability, and in fact, you will do that for your proficiency. To this end, he provided our temples with Hebrew practice sheets for students. Regardie suggested that the student use a calligraphy pen to draw the letters. For the sake of ease and simplicity, we suggest that the Neophyte use a writing instrument called a lettering pen or a calligraphy marker. This type of marker has a felt tip which is wide along one edge. The marker can be held with the wide edge of the tip perpendicular to the line on the practice sheets. The upward, downward, and left to right movements of the markers across the page will result in the thin vertical lines and the thick horizontal lines. Always remember that the Hebrew letters are holy symbols, and as such, they should be carefully and faithfully rendered. The letters are all the same height except for Lamed, which is taller than the other letters, and all of the finals, except for Mem, which have tails that extend below the other letters. Mem final is distinguished by being the only oblong letter, thicker in width than in depth. The general idea behind the Hebrew letters is the square formation. The letters should be drawn repeatedly until the student is proficient in recreating them. On the previous page, we have provided a chart that can be consulted when drawing the letters. We have also furnished a chart below that depicts a simple manner of drawing the Hebrew letters. You can draw these with calligraphy pens, or if you like, you can also draw them with just normal pen. This concludes the knowledge lecture. The information contained therein is to be put to memory. Examinations on the material covered in this section are given at the end. And so essentially, if you want proficiency in this case, you can contact me, or if you have the Golden Dawn books, you can run through their exams. These will include questions about the initiation ritual as well. All right, so what I would advise you to do, this chart came from me. This is how I learned it. I did them. I basically started with the first 3 or 4, and I memorized, and then I added 1, and it would memorize those 5, and then added 1 and memorize those 6, and so on and so forth until I got to the end. And this was an Excel spreadsheet that I did, and I just you can download like a Hebrew font, and then insert them as symbols, and that's how I got the letters in here. On top of that, So yeah, screenshot this essentially if you need it. Otherwise, make your own. I'd recommend you make your own when you write these things on your own. They're going to stick better. But another thing I found is biblical Hebrew cards, flashcards, and these have all of. Actually, they have more letters than you need, but there's Yod. And what I did with these, so for example, this is Zadi. So what I did with Zadi and all of these cards is, I don't know if you can see it very well, but in red dry wet erase marker, I put the dramatia, what the meaning was, and the tarot association, so that I would drill myself. I still do this every day to remember, but I shuffle them, and then I'll draw a random one, and I'll recite its name, what it sounds like, what it means, its number, tarot, etc. And once I was able to run through these with minimal errors, I took my exam. It takes a little bit, and that is the hardest part of the Neophyte grade, just because there's a lot to memorize. But when you're finished, all 6 of these knowledge lectures, and you're ready to take the exam, and you pass through, you will be moved to the first degree, which is the Zelator grade, where you will continue on. So thank you for sitting through all 6 of those knowledge lectures. If you did, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss. And otherwise, good luck in your studies, and we'll see you with some other topics soon. Bye for now.